Juventini to the all Juvecast channel, and we are going to be doing episode 115 of the podcast. And I've got Graeme joining me for this one. Graeme, how you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
I'm doing good, my man. I'm doing good. Now, we are going to start off. Obviously, we're coming off the 2-0 victory against Dynamo, Kiev, in the Champions League. And, basically, let's start off with we came off a rocky match against Crotone. Had to drink several brews to forget about that one. But, it was tough to see, and it was tough to think what we were going to get out of Juve in this one, because it's been such a guessing game, right? So basically, let's start off with the expectations. The starting lineup, it's anybody's guess with Pirlo, because you don't know what's going to happen. What you're going to get. I mean, we've seen Quadrado on the left. Last match, we had Portanova in there against Crotone. No actual trequartista or anybody playing in the hole. So it was tough to see. But I wanted to get your thoughts prior to this match. What were your expectations? Did you have a prediction? What did you think was going to
happen? In all honesty, I was pretty concerned coming in from the Crotone game, because, I mean, that was just worrying. That was just a bad game all around, you know what I mean? It's just watching Juve, and we're thinking, on La Panchina as well, we're just thinking, what is going on here? The game, the tempo is so slow, this team just looks out of ideas. And, we struggled in that game, I felt, even before the red card. And then I was thinking to myself, it's going to be an away trip to Ukraine, I believe, or Dynamo Kiev. Those games in themselves are always going to be tough. And, we're going into it off a poor performance. We're going into it without Cristiano Ronaldo, McKennie, all these guys. So I was hoping for a win, but I wasn't expecting very much, to be honest. I was expecting a very nervy night.
Yeah, I was kind of just, honestly, at the end of the day, just hoping for the victory at all costs, however the hell it came. I thought it was going to be a grind. I was thinking 2-1 in my mind. That was the score I was kind of thinking of. But, the starting lineup comes out. And, Pirlo in his press conference before this, I mean, he was saying the right things, first win in the group is very, very important. He kind of spoke to his feelings on pressure. Hell, he didn't have to tell me he doesn't feel pressure. We all know one of the most famous quotes he can possibly put out there is the night of July 6th or whatever. He goes out there and he's like, I spent the whole day sleeping and playing PlayStation, then I went out at night and won the World Cup. The guy doesn't feel pressure, right? It must be nice for the players to have that, at least a guy that's cool, calm, and collected. But at the same time, it makes you wonder how calm, cool, and collected is he when you're seeing some of these things he's doing with the lineup, and I'm like, man, he is just way too comfortable in doing what he wants to do, right? Like, he's just like, it's almost like not feeling any pressure at all is leaving him at ease to just be completely free with the personnel and everything, right? But the lineups come out, and we had Tech in goal, Danilo, Bonucci, Chiellini at the back. Quadrado was listed on the left side, and Chiesa on the right. And we had Rabiot and Bentancur as the pivots, with Ramsey as that player in the hole, with Kulusevski, Morata up top. Now, you saw that lineup. I want to get your reaction. What did you think when you saw the starting lineup here?
I was very concerned about, like you were mentioning about Quadrado. As soon as I heard about him being on the left, I was thinking, oh my God, no, not the left. I mean, he's okay sometimes on the right, I feel. I'm not his biggest fan. Like, he has his moments like he did tonight, but he's confident on the right-hand side because he's naturally a right winger. So when I saw the formation he was on the left, I was thinking, oh, damn, this is going to be a good night. But, pleasantly surprised. And Chiellini, I was happy, again, we're going to talk about that. I was happy to see him back in the lineup. One of my favourite players, the captain, the main man coming back into the team. So I was pretty satisfied with the lineup. The only disappointment was seeing Dybala on the bench, but we're used to that right now. Whether that's fitness issues or contract issues, there's something obviously going on. But, given the resources what we had, I was pretty satisfied with the lineup.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I mean, as far as the lineup goes, it's what I expected in the middle. There was a lot of talk amongst Juventini that wanted Arthur in there as one of those midfielders. Now, for me, I was saying yesterday leading up to this one, we got to get Rabiot and Bentancur as those pivots. And then as far as Cuadrado, I definitely did not want to see him on the left. Did not want to see him on the left. Now, my question to you on that lineup, would you have been comfortable playing Frabotta in this match?
Yeah. I mean, he's a natural left back, left wing back, whatever you want to call the position. He's a natural in that position. I believe he was started in the first game of the season against Sampdoria, if I'm correct. So if you're going to throw him on the left in your debut game, then you've obviously got some confidence in him. I thought he had a good debut. So I was thinking, good debut, throw the kid on and let's see where it goes. I mean, we've not got Alexandro for a while, so, you might as well have a natural left back than, force Cuadrado into that position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I said I'd be fine with Frabotta if he had to be the one that stepped in there to play. I would have been fine with it because at least he gives us the stability. He's decent going up. He's not afraid to get up there, get involved, and put the crosses in. Do we get more danger with a guy like Chiesa in the lineup? Absolutely. But I always had that risk in the back of my mind of is he going to be solid enough defensively? So, yeah, but ultimately this lineup, I was fine with it once I saw it hit the pitch. And despite Cuadrado being listed on the left side, he was on the right. We were going with Chiesa on the left. And again, that's a big question mark. Is he going to be able to do it defensively? But other than that, it was all good. Get to the game, and we're going to hit some points as we go through the first half. Little bit of a weird, sketchy scenario 6 minutes in when Szczesny bobbles like what should be an easy catch. But he's got two defenders under there also, and I'm thinking, man, it's one thing I've always kind of thought about Szczesny and criticizing for is like, I don't think he has a lot of command back there, or he's like too quiet or something. But you see these moments where you're just like, man, how are these guys still there? They're not getting out of the way or whatnot. I've always had that criticism about him. I don't think he commands his area as well as he should. But we got away from it, cleared the ball, everything was fine. We move 6 minutes ahead. Great play by Chiesa. Beats his man. We get him into a 1v1. Beats his man rather easily and forces a really good stop by Kiev's keeper. So it looked promising from the start. A minute later, Chiesa again cuts in, has a shot, just curls wide at the far post there. And basically, 17th minute, we've got Demiral warming up. And I'm thinking, what's going on? Then you see the screen pan onto Chiellini. He's taken off the armband. He's given it to Bonucci. And Demiral gets substituted in. And this is very, very painful. We'll get to the repercussions of whatnot afterwards. But, man, honestly, we can't rely on him. It's a sad day because it's Chiellini, but we just can't bank on him.
No, it's far too injury prone.
Yeah, it's just coming to that. It's coming to that moment there now where he's. Yeah, it's just he plays one game and he's out 5. He's out longer. It's just that's the way it is. It's sad, but I think it's come to an end for Giorgio there. 27th minute, we got a low hard cross from Cuadrado, but nobody's home there. We look good, honestly. I'm thinking at this point, like, I was actually happy. We had some sloppy passes in the final third. It wasn't as crisp as it should have been, but overall, I was feeling okay. It was good. 31st minute, great steal from Rabiot, right in the heart of the middle, runs up. He's got space to just have a rip. He doesn't. He takes a couple extra touches. He goes out wide, and then I think he ends up trying to get a cross that gets blocked or whatnot. But, man, I was just screaming at the TV. Hit the thing. hit the thing, and I just couldn't believe it. But we move on in 33rd minute, a great run by Ramsey, and Kulu trying to relive the Del Piero flick in that Champions League final goal. Hell of a flick. Forces a good save, but great play by Ramsey getting in there. We hit halftime, we're 0-0, and I was a little bit surprised to see the frustration of Juventini at halftime. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was a good half by us. I thought it was solid positionally. I thought we could have been, like I said, more crisp in the final third, but overall, I wasn't upset by any means. We gave them literally nothing in the first half to Kiev. I think their first opportunity came 38th minute, and it was a guy trying to chip Chesney because he was out of his goal or whatnot. And that was the closest chance they really had the whole first half. So I was feeling fine with it.
I mean, it was comfortable.
What were your thoughts at half, Graeme?
I mean, it was nothing special. It was nothing to scream and shout about and cheer, but at the same time, it was nothing to be down in the dumps about. It was nothing to be overly critical about. I mean, the scoreline was 0-0, you know, and we were in control of the game. It was pretty comfortable. Was it pretty to watch? No. But, you know, the only thing I would complain about was the lack of finishing, which is understandable because, you know, we're missing Cristiano Ronaldo, who is our main finisher, and Paulo Dybala, who is like second in command or, you know, on level with Ronaldo, depending on what your opinion is. You know, he's on the bench, so we were missing two of our main attackers. So that's understandable from a finishing point of view. So my only criticism was we weren't finishing and putting away the chances that we made.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we could always have more chances offensively, really. But I still thought it was okay. I did notice something, though, that there was a bit of urgency that we lost to our game once Chiellini had left. There's a bit of just, I don't know, the intent almost kind of just left. Like, Demiral comes in, he shifted to the right side, and then Danilo became the left center back. And Chiellini actually had made a really great pass to send Chiesa through, a nice little through ball, and you don't get that with Demiral. You really don't. His passing is so limited. He looks to me a little awkward in a back three. He's still solid. He's definitely aggressive. Good defender in my opinion, but I don't know. I think he needs more minutes, more reps in that three-man back to get comfortable. I just put up this comment by Antonio, who's just saying that, hey lads, he was disappointed in Bentancur tonight. I felt he was very slow in making his decision. I would have preferred Arthur alongside Rabiot. And again, we had spoken to that. I had said that we had a lot of Juventini that were calling for Arthur to get in there. Bentancur was, I think he struggled in the first half. He really struggled throughout this game, but it wasn't terrible. He was still doing the dirty work. Oddly enough, with only 2 tackles, he led at halftime for tackles. So tells you a bit about the game. And I was surprised that Juventini were so frustrated because Kiev did nothing. Like, they had nothing. We had control. We just, couldn't really take advantage. But we didn't. It felt like the second half had just begun, and boom, Morata strikes. Good build-up. Chiesa did well again. Ramsey with a back heel, just knowing Kulishevsky's there, has a rip, rebounds there, and Morata's on the spot. This is the thing. Morata, for me, struggled in the first half. I thought he was really, really poor, losing the ball in areas we didn't want to lose the ball, making really, really bad passes. But this is what he does. And this is like a typical Morata goal. Right spot, right time. And just like old times, our Champions League killer is back, right?
Yeah, he rediscovered his goal scoring boots tonight. Yeah,
for sure. No, it was good. It was good to see how we react 2 minutes later, 48th, we see Dybala warming up. And I'm thinking, okay, well, interesting, see who he takes off, see what he wants to do there. And then what he ended up doing was in the 55th, about 7 minutes later, Kulusevski was the one coming out, and Dybala went in. He actually got involved very, very quickly, working some nice give and goes, one with Bentancur getting in a good area. But you could see his touch just quite wasn't what it needed to be or where it needs to be. But that's okay. Not a huge issue. We get to the 71st. Good build-up, and then across from Cuadrado, and Ramsey just puts a ton of leg on this thing. I'd be surprised if that ball stayed in the goddamn stadium. But again, we're working through it. But after that opportunity, it felt like Juve took the foot off the throttle. It did for me anyways. It was right around that 74th minute or so. Started to feel like we really just came down a big level. Were you feeling that way too?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very bright start to the second half, and then the further along it went, it seemed that we were going to settle for 1-0, which would be old school Juve, just settling for the slide that 1-0 lead and sitting on it. Which I'm fine with to a degree. I mean, if you're leading, you don't need to go all out and try and win like 3-0, 4-0, especially if you're controlling the game and you're comfortable with it. It's always better to have a 2-goal cushion, but I wasn't expecting us to go crazy and go all out attack and keep looking for the second goal.
Yeah, exactly, right. And you could tell in this one, that they sacrificed the amount of pressure and the press that they were going to run with in order to be much more stable positionally. Because, in these previous matches, the one thing you can see is that how Pirlo always talks about they want to win the ball, they want to get it back quickly and whatnot. But it was making us run around, like at some points with chickens with our heads cut off, for Christ's sake. Like it just looked so bad, and there was gaps everywhere, and it was a mess. So I'm kind of glad that they eased off that a bit, just to be more sound fundamentally and positionally. So it was good in my opinion. 74th minute, they get a chested volley shot by Kiev. Ends up luckily going right at Chesney. And like I said, this was the point. You could see us kind of dip down a bit. 77th minute, Berna starts to get ready. And after his last display, nobody's probably too excited about that, but it is what it is. A minute later, it's a double change by Pirlo. Bentancur comes out and Arthur comes in, and then Bernardeschi comes in for Ramsey. Is what it is. Arthur, we'll see what happens. We'll see what he can do, get his minutes in. Bernardeschi and Ramsey out. Ramsey played a good match, in my opinion. And we do need to take care of this guy. Everybody knows his record with injuries, so it is what it is. 83rd minute. And out of nowhere, seemingly just out of nowhere, Cuadrado, an unbelievable cross. Morata, just absolute money from there. Heads home, 2-0. I'm jumping, I'm pumped. And that surely seals it. And there was a couple scrambles in Juve's area there. We were able to see it through. There was actually a rocket in the 92nd minute from way out that forced a diving save by Chesney. That's about as close as Kiev came. And we see this out 2-0. Now, this is the part where, we talk about post-match. And again, a lot of Juventini just saying this was a poor performance, overall, but we got the win. And I don't think it was that bad. Still at the end of the halftime. Second half, we let off the throttle and whatnot, but we were always in control, really. I mean, I didn't feel threatened other than probably less than a handful of times from Kiev. I just think you're on the road. First group game, very important. We got the 3 points. Morata gets a brace. We got minutes for Dybala. which was a huge plus. Got some more minutes for a guy like Arthur. And Chiesa was very, very good at left wing back.
I thought he was one of our better players tonight
for us, and I was happy. I thought it could be a lot more crisp in the final third, but overall, I was happy. Your thoughts after the final whistle?
Satisfied, a clean sheet of all our defensive frailties that we've been seeing over the past few games. I mean, a clean sheet, brilliant, fantastic. And we scored 2-0. So we went 2-0 away from home against what was a potential banana peel. I mean, Dynamo Kiev away in a normal season would be a potential, game where you drop points. I'm not saying they're a tough opponent and you're going to struggle against them, but there's always that potential for that to happen, especially when you're dropping points away to Brick and Crotone. I don't care talk about the red card in that game. It's 5-0 now, but even before that, when 11 men were still looking poor. And given the recent performance that we've seen, the Roma game, I thought that was horrendous. The Crotone game, slightly better, but bad again. And tonight we have a clean sheet and a win. So I'm not going to be overly critical about it. There's still room for improvement, but overall, Morata, he didn't have overall the greatest game. I thought he went missing in the first half, but the second half he did what a striker should do. A fox in the box. He disappeared and put the ball in the back of the net. That's all you can ask for from a striker. I mean, that's pretty much what Cristiano Ronaldo does. So I was satisfied.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I was satisfied. Do you agree with Antonio here saying that Morata will be a 20-plus goal scorer this year? Says he has matured so much. 20 goals plus out of Morata. Think so?
I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm not sure he's ever scored more than 20 goals for anyone per season. He's never really been the main man for goals, and when Cristiano Ronaldo returns, he's certainly not going to be the main man for goals. I can assure you of that. But I think he will come up. He will perform good for us, and he'll definitely score a lot of goals for us. Maybe I would say sort of in the middle and say 15 possibly.
Think about 15. Yeah, I don't know if I could see him banging in 20 plus, but hell, I'd take it. And maybe Antonio will have to put a little wager on that little side bet on Morata getting 20 plus. But yeah, I think with a brace, you got to give him man of the match, despite some of the difficulties, especially in the first half that he had. He banged the 2 goals in. He was right where he needed to be. Made a hell of a run to beat the defender on the second one. Chiesa, I think, in my opinion, close behind him. And even Ramsey. Thought Ramsey was really, really good in this one. So, yeah, your man of the match? Is it Morata?
Oh, yes, but again, like yourself, closely followed by Chiesa. I thought Chiesa was an attacking threat throughout the game.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the post-match topics here. And there's never dull moments surrounding Juve. But against Crotone, when we had fallen behind 10 to 10 men, we were recording La Panchina together. So we were doing our watch party. There was quite a few of us calling for Dybala to play. Obviously, imagining that if he's suited up, he's there, he should be able to at least contribute a bit, right? Pirlo in his press conference after said, yeah, Paulo Dybala was upset, and he had only trained for a few minutes and whatnot, but at the same time, stop. Why take him? Why travel? Why do all this? But okay. And then he said also because we're down to 10 men. My issue with that is if you have Bernardeschi coming in, okay? You have Bernardeschi coming in, and then Bernardeschi ends up playing quite advanced, despite the fact that we're down to 10 men. I would take Paulo Dybala at 65-70% over Bernardeschi at 150% any day of the week. And that's just me. And again, if you're going to draw Crotone, giving up those 2 points is like giving up the full 3 at the end of the day. Were we really that concerned? At that point in the match, too, I wasn't feeling all that threatened by Crotone. To be honest, you could see that they were like very content with getting their first point of the season against Juve in a draw. We should have put the foot on the throttle and gone for it. But in this match, you could see Dybala was noticeably off. There was a bit of rust with touch and whatnot, but I liked the drive that he had, the hunger that he had when he first came in. Yeah, he just needs to get back in there, but he's not somebody I'm worried about. But comment was made during a discussion post-match that Dybala coming in is where we kind of lost control, and we were much better with Kulusevski in there at that point. And I want to get your thoughts on that. Graeme, do you agree with that statement? Or?
No, I don't think we began to lose control when Dybala came on. I thought he did well, things considered. Like you said, he's clearly not fit. I mean, he's clearly not the level of fitness when he doesn't even come on against Crotone. I mean, we were chasing the game, and then you bring on Bernardeschi instead of Dybala, and then apparently maybe 60, 65% fit, whatever it is. You would still rather him come on and try and help you out in the game, which was, he got the minutes tonight. Get some match fitness up for him. And I thought he did well, things considered. This is the first time we've seen him this season, I believe. So, you got to give him time to get back to 100% fitness. I wasn't blown away by Kulusevski. I mean, I think it was the Sampdoria game where he really, wowed me, and I was like, this is some kid we've got in our hands here. And ever since then, I think he's been okay. Maybe he's trying a little too hard at times, I feel. You see instances of that during games, sometimes rather than try and go for the simple option, he'll try and be the star man and beat a few players or whatever. So I don't think we lost control when Dybala came on.
Yeah. So thing with Kulusevski for me is I think he needs to have that space ahead of him. I think being one of those two up top, he's constantly getting caught with guys on his back. And he tries these one-touch flicks and whatnot quite often. And you saw it quite a bit tonight. Whereas a guy that typically plays there will have more of a variety, right? Or even just hold up and then work a give and go or whatnot. But he seems a little bit off. He seems to kind of struggle with that player on his back. I think, honestly, I could see Kulusevski being one of those players that rotates in that hole behind the two forwards with Ramsey. I could see him being one of those guys. Now, as far as Dybala's control, Dybala's concerned, and then him making us lose control, I don't agree with that comment, to be honest. I think we were very, very slow almost immediately after we got the second goal, really. Or the first goal, sorry. We had kind of put the throttle off, and then we really got the throttle off shortly after, maybe 16 minutes after Dybala had come on. So I don't think it was because of it. I see a lot of change in opinions towards Dybala recently. And the contract stuff. Some people making quite a bit of fuss because he was upset at not getting in there in the Crotone match, but I didn't really bat an eye at that, really. I mean, I think he's going to get upset at that, and I kind of want our star players to have that and want to be in the match and get their minutes and be upset about that. I had no problem with that. The question has come out now, and I still say it's bullshit, that it's rumored he's asking for 15 million euros, and a lot of Juventini are just like, they're split. I saw quite a heavy split, and it's like, no way he gets 15 million euros. Is that too much money for him? Or in your opinion, would you pay 15 million euro a season for Dybala?
I mean, I definitely think that's what's maybe split the opinions on Dybala. Prior to the contract negotiations being reported and, the wages that he's after, I didn't really see that much dislike towards Paulo Dybala, or kind of brushing him off as well. He's sellable. He's not really La Jolla. He's not really a jewel for the team, which I still think he is, 100%. So, I mean, you got to think about his status in the team. So, like, I mean, he's basically the second best player at the club, you know, behind Ronaldo. So, if you're going to your workplace, and you're thinking, right, I'm number 2 in this team, I should be getting this amount of wages to reflect that I'm the second best guy in this team behind a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo. So I can see his point of view if it's true. I mean, I honestly don't think he's asking like for that much. Is it 15 million it's been reported per season or whatever it is? So I don't think it's that much. I think that's being inflated, but it's within every right to ask for a high fee. I mean, the only thing that can go wrong really is you go in and you highball how much you want, and then the club come back and say, we're not going to give you 15, but we'll give you 12 or 10, and then Dybala goes, yeah, that'll do, or something along those lines, you know?
Well, this is the thing. My next question, what's your cutoff financially for Dybala if it's not 15 million euros? What's your cutoff? Like, for me, I'm thinking, this is where I think in my mind, like, based on his abilities, what he does, what he means to the club, I'm thinking, you know, I'm comfortable with 12 million euros for Dybala. And in my mind, am I willing to sacrifice Dybala for an extra 3? Because people right away see this 15 million euro, it's half of what we pay Ronaldo. There's no way he's worth that money. But if you break it down in this way and you think, well, what is he worth to you? And you're at 11 or 12 million euros. Are you going to let him walk for an extra 3 or 4? In my opinion, I say no. Like, I wouldn't. I would, obviously, as a club, you're going to try to negotiate it down to where you want it to be. But I don't think it's as astronomical as many Juventini were making it to be. And personally, I'm with you. I don't believe it's even – I think that's higher than what he's actually asking anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think it would be ridiculous if we lost or sold Dybala based on 2 or 3 million difference for like a contract. I mean, to begin with, who the hell do you replace him with? You know, like the money's tight as it is. You lose a player like Paulo Dybala, like you're going to have to spend at least like something like 80 or 90 million, or possibly slightly more, to get a player of his caliber in to replace him to begin with. So, you know, just pay him something like 10, 12 million, and I think that reflects his status in the team.
Absolutely. Now, good question coming in. Where does Dybala fit, in your opinion? Because, you know, Antonio seems to think that the way he sees it, CR7 and Morata will start most games. And Chiesa will start on one of the wings, and Ramsey in the big games being a no-brainer. Well, you know, this is going to be interesting, I think, as Pirlo gets more matches under his belt and whatnot, we see what ends up happening here. It's a tough one because you also have Kulusevski, who we talked about, that isn't quite fitting in at the moment. But he hasn't played in the hole. So the thing is, all of a sudden, I think Dybala could either play as one of your two, partnered up with Ronaldo or Morata, either or. But man, maybe Morata might solidify himself as always being one of those two because he is the true 9, right? Dybala could play in the hole, in my opinion. We would probably surrender a bit more defensively than we do with a guy like Ramsey. But I don't know. I think Pirlo has options. Let's put it that way, and that's a good thing. It's something we haven't had. We didn't really have this problem last season. Let's put it that way. So, yeah. What do you think? How do you see Dybala fitting in?
Well, I mean, like, my first thought was, with everyone fit, I would say that, you know, Ronaldo and Dybala is your front two, more or less. Like, if you're going to play with two up front, you know, it's been proven last season that the two of them can combine with each other. I thought the two of them were a great partnership, especially compared with Ronaldo's debut season. So I was expecting Morata will be, you know, he'll be rotating between himself and Dybala. And of course, Ronaldo's obviously always going to start. But, you know, we've seen in the past that, you know, Dybala can play as a sort of like central attack midfield role, you know, just behind a two striker partnership. He is capable of that. So, like, you know, you've always got the option. You could rest Ramsey, or you could rotate Ramsey and Dybala for that position, or you can rotate Morata and Dybala for that position. But I definitely think in one of the two, and with everyone fit, despite Morata's 3 goals over 2 games right now, I would still put Dybala ahead of him. I just think he's more talented. Maybe right now Morata's more clinical. I see Morata as I see him sort of as a Spanish Inzaghi. He's a sort of poacher type. The first half you're thinking, get this guy off, get him off, bring Paulo Dybala on, and then next thing he appears right in front of the goal and he just puts it behind the net. And you're like, fantastic, keep him on. I love the guy. So it's a tough one to have, but it's a very welcome dilemma. Last season everyone was crying out at me for get the trident on the pitch. We need Higuain, Ronaldo, and Dybala. So there's no reason why you can't have Dybala, Ronaldo, and Morata this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that too, by the way. Spanish Inzaghi. I'm sticking with that one this year. I love that. All right. Let's get off the Dybala train. I honestly don't see any issues with him fitting into this club this season. I'm not worried about it. He's not my concern. We have new concerns, and that is Chiellini being injured. So, Chiellini injured. We run a 3 center back system under Pirlo. Now, does this force Andrea's hand to go into 4? We don't know the status of Sandro and just how close he's getting back. Obviously, I would anticipate maybe Sandro becomes one of those center backs as well. That also allows us to keep Chiesa as one of those wing backs. Frabotta rotating in there, but De Ligt, we're still 3-4 weeks away, possibly from having him back. Does this force his hand? A lot of Juventini have been wanting to go with the 4-2-3-1. Does this force Andrea's hand to back off what he's trying to do here? What do you think, Graeme?
I think it will eventually, because we're severely lacking in depth for the centre back position. It's incredibly unfortunate what's happened to Chiellini. Despite his injury record, I don't think anyone was quite expecting him to be injured straight away practically. So that was very disappointing. I think we may well, once Alexandro returns, whenever that is, maybe he will be converted to a centre back position, like a left centre back. We've got a right back in Danilo playing centre back right now, so anything's possible at Pirlo's party right now. So I do think we're going to need to switch formations at some point, because if you're going to play with 3 centre backs and you've got 2 of them out injured, what can you possibly do? So I think we will need to revert at some point to 2 at the back until more players come back from injury.
Yeah. So obviously next match is against Verona. Are you expecting to see that back 4?
I'm trying to actually think who's in the roster right now.
He could just roll out with the same. It could be Demiral, Bonucci, and Danilo.
I think we'll probably start with the same formation, but I think Pirlo will have something in the back of his head for if someone gets, God forbid, if someone pulls up with another injury, then it's going to force his hand. But I hope he's prepared for that, because it was very concerning at some point when I saw Bonucci he was just holding his hamstring a little bit. Maybe it was a little tight, and I was thinking to myself, we can't afford to have Bonucci out injured as well. If Bonucci's gone, then that's 2 centre backs we're left with. And one's a right back. One's forced from a right back to a centre back.
Well, let's talk about this potential 4-2-3-1, okay? Because you and I, we talk all the time, and I know you're not too fond of this setup Pirlo uses, right?
Yeah, I feel like when you're watching a game, it's good for going and attack. You've got guys like Cuadrado and Chiesa on the wings, and they're predominantly attack-minded players. A guy like Chiesa, he's not thinking in the back of his head, I need to track back immediately, defend, tackle, mark. His only interest is going forward and getting balls in the box or having a go on goal himself. You saw that tonight. He was going forward, and it was great to see. But we've seen plenty of times in the previous games where we're very exposed with the space that gets left behind them. Like particularly like the Roma game, that was an absolute mess. And I felt when I was watching the Crotone game that there was time and time again they were taking advantage and exposing us in those like wide areas in the defence. And it just worries me going against, like, I know, like, I don't know what the score is right now. We're talking about the Champions League's getting played, I believe. I don't feel overly confident going against like a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich or someone like that. And they could really potentially expose us in those wide areas.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where we get into it. And the 4-2-3-1, when I look at who we're going to play and how we're going to play them, I see it potentially being very, very challenging for us to do, to keep the balance. To keep the balance as easy as the 3-5-2 or 3-4-1-2, however, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to be as easy to do. Because if we play a 4-2-3-1, who are going to be those three in behind there? And, Ronaldo's going to have to occupy one of those spots. He can't play up top solely. We know he gets isolated, and that's not how he's going to play. So you got to figure he's going to be out on that left side as one of those three. So right there, you're automatically losing any kind of support defensively from there. Okay, asking them in the 4-2-3-1, the other two in behind that 9, they've got to contribute defensively too. But if you're going to play a guy again like Chiesa on one side, Kulusevski as one of them. Kulusevski, we've seen it too, is limited defensively. I just don't see the balance, right? That 3-4-1-2, it's a very simplistic system. It's able when you get it right and it clicks, so easily can turn defense into offense, right? And I think Pirlo, it's tough because we're working with such a small volume, small body of work from him, right? We saw some flashes right out of the hop of what it could do, what it could be like, but he hasn't had some of those guys in the lineup as well. I think he can get it right. He's been tinkering quite a bit too, which also I think kind of stunts the growth as far as the project's concerned. But the 4-2-3-1, I see potentially us losing that balance and having some issues there. What do you think? Are you behind the 4-2-3-1? Do you picture more of a 4-3-3?
Well, I'm getting a serious case of deja vu right now because I'm pretty sure we had a similar problem last season. At the very beginning of last season, I think Sarri went in with this like pattern 4-3-3 or whatever formation it was. We looked okay, and then we started getting guys injured. Chiellini got injured, Douglas Costa got injured, and his original formation and ideas got scrapped, and he had to start tinkering slightly to try new formations. I feel like Pirlo is eventually going to have to try and do that because he's experiencing the exact same things where some players are just dropping like flies, and particularly with what we have going around in the world right now. Thanks for that, McKennie and Ronaldo. But I've always liked that formation, the 4-2-3-1, despite memories from a certain Champions League final, which I'm pretty sure we played that formation in that game. Maybe I was wrong. But I've always preferred that because I feel like that's sort of like the 5-star formation that Allegri first had, where he had Mandzukic out wide and such, and Paulo Dybala playing in the hole behind. I could see him playing in that role again. I could see him playing behind Morata. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo's going to play on the left because that's his spot and that's his play. He's not going to give it up. But like you were touching on, he's not going to give you anything defensively. He's if he tracks back, it'll be minimal, very minimal. And on the right hand side, again, you're not going to get much tracking back either because if you've got someone like Kulusevski, Cuadrado, or Chiesa, all three of them aren't defensively minded either. They'll track back a hell of a lot more than Ronaldo. but I think they won't be as balanced going forward and going back. I mean, keep in mind, back when we had a 4-2-3-1, we had Mario Mandzukic in the wide position who would come back and go forward. He wasn't afraid to track back and defend. So the only plus side I see with a 4-2-3-1 right now is it addresses the problem we have with injured players in the centre-back position. I think we need to go back just for the time being until we get more numbers, until guys like De Ligt come back. I think we need to go back to a formation where it's got two in the middle for centre-backs. And I'll probably get criticism for this, but I think it'll be a 4-3-3 because that's what the squad was originally built for last season. And you've got plenty of options for the wingers. I mean, we've got Bernardeschi, Chiesa, Cuadrado, Ronaldo, Kulusevski. There's 5 players that you can play in the wide positions. It's not ideal, but it's something that we could cope with right now until we get more players coming back, I feel.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what strings Pirlo pulls now with this Chiellini injury. Obviously, until we get reports and see what it actually is, it'll be interesting. Definitely an issue with the knee there, but it's just frustrating. And the fact that he was wearing that brace, before leaving for international duty, so it's like if there's risk, if there's doubts there, you've got to just make a decision there. I mean, you got to start questioning these guys when they're putting themselves in jeopardy. You know what I mean? And a guy like Chiellini, I mean, it's Nations League, for Christ's sake. One match, I think, was a friendly. It's just, is it really necessary? And honestly, it goes even beyond that. Is it necessary to even play international football during a global pandemic? You can go.
Nope. Yeah,
exactly, right? So Trevor sends in a question asking thoughts on Chiesa. He says that I myself wasn't keen on his arrival, but I was fine with it. I've always said I've liked Chiesa. I mean, and I took heat from it. This goes dating back to when the rumors started last season. I like him as a player. I never liked his price tag. This particular deal, my only issue was the fact that I thought we needed an actual right back. Okay, because I just feel like Cuadrado is not the answer, and then Chiesa was reported to us as being that player that they see as the right wing back. And I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't seeing a defensive or whatnot. I will say this. He hasn't surprised me with what we've seen out of the first couple matches out of him. I've always said I love that drive he possesses and how he always plays foot on the gas forward. He's got a ton of energy. He's fast. And he's not scared to take guys on 1v1. But Graeme, let's get your thoughts. How do you feel about the pickup, signing Chiesa, and what are your thoughts on him so far?
Well, he's impressed me. I thought he was very unlucky in his debut against Crotone. I mean, that red card was a complete and utter farce. That was a joke.
Absolutely.
And I thought he was really good tonight. I think I said earlier on, he was always given the options in attack. He was going forward. He was crossing the ball with his delivery, which was good, into the penalty area. And he was having shots on goal as well, which I always like to see. My only criticism, again, similar to yours, was I didn't feel at the time he was a player that we should be splashing out on. Because, I was under the impression, I've been hearing that he would play as a wing-back sort of for Fiorentina before he arrived. But I was always under the impression he was more of a winger. And I was thinking to myself, why the hell are we spending all this money on, albeit a talented and Italian player, why are we spending all this money on him when you have areas in the pitch that need to be really addressed, ASAP as soon as possible, especially the full-back, wing-back area. Alessandro's out for whoever knows how long. I think our only actual natural left-back right now is Frabotta. And the right back position, well, Danilo's playing in the middle, so you pretty much only had Cuadrado. So I would have felt more comfortable actually getting a natural full back in for one of those positions, especially for the fee that was being talked about. But that's nothing against Chiesa as a player. I rate him. I think he's a good player, and he showed that tonight as well. Hopefully, he continues to improve. But I just felt at the time we should have signed the full back. But so far he's proven me wrong.
Yeah. And again, you just kind of stressed my sentiments exactly. I just felt we should have got a right back, but I never really had any doubts of Chiesa and whatnot. One of my biggest things is the comparison of Juve with a team like Fiorentina. I said this kid could actually break through and be more should he be surrounded by, better players, training with champions, getting out of that fucking shit club, really. And I it's one of my things when we lose players, okay? Transferring, like we transferred Moise Kean. He was not in favor with the coach there. He was getting pulled off after just getting put in matches. Like, it was a shit show. And everybody rags on him. There's one Twitter clip reel that came out about him at PSG, and automatically it's just like, oh, he's a bum, all this. I never compare players to other, like when they leave or other clubs, because it's all different. It's all different circumstances, situations, whatnot. I always talk about them when they're with us or potentially joining us and how they could fit our club. And Chiesa, I never had doubts in his ability or whatnot. I did doubt him as a wing back, though. I will say that. Just didn't see it, but I love that he's starting to prove me wrong. Real quick, before we open it up to questions, I got to say this debate keeps rolling around in our midfield. With the pivots, everybody going on, Bentancur, Rabiot, Arthur, we got McKennie out with COVID or whatnot. What's our best midfield, in your opinion, Graeme? Clutch, do or die game, you have to name our midfield, okay?
So we'd be playing with three in the middle, wouldn't we? So I would want Ramsey. A fit Ramsey, 100%. I don't want him with like a knock or a niggle. 100% Ramsey on me.
You realize that's very, very hard to ask for.
Oh, I know. I'm asking for miracles, but we're playing fantasy football manager here, so cheats are necessary. So I would have Aaron Ramsey. I would have, this will sound maybe a bit strange, I would have McKennie, because I feel that he's our most defensive-minded player in the squad right now, midfield-wise, which leaves either Bentancur or Arthur, and based on what I've seen so far, I would have Bentancur over Arthur, because I feel when I've been watching Arthur, he dwells on the ball too much, and unfortunately, he's living up to that number in his back. He makes me think of Pjanic. Hopefully he proves me wrong, but I mean, tonight, whenever I saw him on the ball, he would dwell on it, and then next thing he would pass it sideways or back to the defence, and I really just can't be bothered with that.
Yeah. It's a tough one for me, honestly. We got Antonio here saying his is Ramsey, Arthur, Rabiot. I think for me, if Ramsey's healthy, he's in there for sure in that hole. Unless, of course, somebody else shows us a little bit more. But Ramsey's class when he's on, it's hard to deny him. Rabiot for me is in there. He's a lock. He's just been growing like with us more and more and more. And it's at the point now, even when he has an off match, it's not too bad. It's not too noticeable. It's just I'm fine with it. Arthur, I don't know if I can throw him in there. He's great on the ball. He's very, very hard to dispossess, but he holds on to it far too long, and I haven't seen really anything too great out of him. I haven't seen him. I mean, even if we look at this match against Dynamo Kiev, he had the ball in a circumstance where there was space ahead of him to kind of go towards the defense, maybe slip one to the forward. He didn't do anything. He just took the ball, stopped, and went back with it. And then basically, I just don't see any through ball attempts. I don't see him spraying the ball out there. I literally just see him holding it for far too long. I'm having a tough time in the small pieces of footage that we've had of him so far, figuring out what he's going to bring to the club. Like I can't figure it out. So I gotta go Rabiot Ramsey and McKennie, honestly, when McKennie's fit. I think McKennie's work rate is huge. I'm fine with what he possesses on the ball or whatnot, but Arthur, I think he's got some work to do to get in there. And honestly, like, as one of the two pivots, because Arthur's going to have to play that role, because if we got Ramsey in there, he's going to play ahead of the other two. He hasn't impressed me defensively either, really. And I think it's weird to sacrifice that. But, Graeme, you like to see that balance. So it's kind of funny that you haven't picked Arthur because, historically, you that's how you think of your midfields in the two-man pivots, right?
Yeah, you got to have balance. You got to have a more defensive-minded player partnering an attack-minded player. That's the way I've always seen it. We had guys like I'm going to mention names that are unpopular, predominantly two. We've had guys like Vidal. Vidal was the guy that was running around, sticking the boot in and tackling and winning the ball back for us. We had, Antonio Conte was the same. Screw those guys for the time being until they find a new club. But they were good for us at the time. We've had even Edgar Davids. He was a technically gifted player, but he was the guy running around and tackling and winning the ball back for us as well. So you always need those type of players, and that's what I see. Well, that's what I've seen in McKennie so far. There's plenty of time for a guy like Arthur to prove me wrong and start performing and be a first team regular to the point where you cannot pick him in your fantasy team Juventus wise.
Yeah.
That is the bad word.
I agree with you there, and he's right. Conte is a bad word. We don't say that. We don't say that word anymore. No, that's great. Yeah, it's again we get back to this whole thing with Juventus right now, and Pirlo has options. And that's the best part about it. The team itself has improved a great deal on the pitch. And it's funny because I took some heat for my Mercato rating for Juve, but I scored them great on the pitch in my rating. What I didn't score them well on was the financial aspect of it and not being able to move absolutely anybody. And ultimately that does reflect on their Mercato. And I know that COVID threw in all this, but still, it's years of that business catching up to them. But there's no doubt we're a better team than we were last year as far as players are concerned. On the pitch, it still needs to come together and be proven. We are under construction, as Pirlo says, and that's the frustrating part about this is I think this 9 straight run we're on, has built such an incredible level of impatience with Juventini. It's unbelievable. I could see it already. We discussed it on La Panchina, Graeme. We talked about, are we going to start hearing them go at Pirlo? You know what I mean? Are people going to start going? And there was some turning their backs on him immediately already. And how do you feel about those Juventini that are already pissed off with Pirlo?
As long as you keep it to constructive criticism, it's fine. I've given him plenty of constructive criticism, particularly when we're on La Panchina watching a game live. How can you not when you're watching, what happened against Roma when badly exposed at times, and that was just a nightmare. And then you have the 3-0 win against Napoli, which was brilliant. That was a phenomenal performance. And then you get the draw with Crotone, which again you're just ripping your hair out. If I had any, I would be ripping it out. So you got to be constructive. You know what I mean? It feels like Pirlo is a manager that makes decisions where there's going to be no repercussions for him. It just feels like the board's kind of went, okay, Pirlo, go out, figure something out, and while you're figuring it out, don't worry about anything. If you want to put on Portanova, that's fine. What happens, happens. If you want to put on a guy few have ever heard of before the season began off, like Frabotta, go for it, sure. It just feels like he's so calm about everything. I've said it several times, when we're going into a game, we're looking at the formation and we're like, Quadrado on the left, that can't be right. like, surely, no way. And then the game starts and Cuadrado's on the left, and then you're watching the game progress, and you're like, what the hell is our tactics here? What's the approach? What are we doing? But it's, it seems to be getting the results so far. But I mean, like anyone, it doesn't matter what your name is or what you've done as a football player. If the performances aren't there and the results aren't coming, you're going to get criticised, rightfully so. So it'll be the same for Pirlo. When we lose games, criticise. When we win games, praise.
Yeah. The thing is, it depends on where you are as far as how you see what he's doing, right? There's Juventini, I spoke of it, that say, it makes sense that he's tinkering so much at the start. Get it out of the way out of the start. Or are you of the frame of mind, figure out what works, get some momentum, build it, get it going, get it moving in the right direction, and then do some tweaking here and there to do your experimentation, right? But I think out of the get-go, I think you gotta get it going, man. I think you gotta get some rhythm, get the momentum, and see these results through. The Portanova thing was so shocking. Not only that, but just the way he lined us up, and we saw it today in the way. And I spoke to it earlier. Not only the fact that it was Ramsey, but just having a player in the hole behind the two forwards made a big difference. And against Crotone, we took that away and we played Portanova, and he was playing as another high guy. We almost had those three up top, and it was just not working. It was not working, and there was a massive space that was left vacant, and there was no link up. It was ugly to see. So I question that. But do you think he should be tinkering now, early on, or would you rather him gain momentum and then use the lower sides to kind of try things out? Pirlo hasn't had the advantage of getting a preseason. He had one match against Novara, which he tried his plan A, which still appears to be plan A for us. But what do you think? Is he right in doing all this, or should he ease up and just make sure we're getting those results? What do you think?
Well, like you just said, he didn't have the luxury of a standard season with pre-season friendlies. I mean, every pre-season when we've got a new manager or new players come in, we'll excitedly watch the games and think to ourselves what's the formation going to be? How are we going to play? We only had one game with I think it was Novara, wasn't it? Where we got to see that, and that was exciting. We're watching the game, and they're playing fast, they're fast passing, and we're like, this is fantastic. This is what I signed up to see last year. So I'm the type of guy where I'm the line of thinking where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So as soon as Pirlo comes across something that works and it works well, stick with it. Don't screw around with it. Don't tinker with it. And I think the formation worked against Sampdoria. It worked well, but it keeps changing up the personnel. I mean, Portanova, where the hell did that come from? And I've said it already. And then putting players out of position, Cuadrado was out of position as a right back last season, and then he's out of position this season and on the left. So less tinkering. Once you figure it out and once you get something that works, stick with it. Don't mess around with it.
Yeah. Our boy Daniel writing in, he shouldn't be using games against Roma to test out a new set of players. Crotone, sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a given. That's exactly what kind of speaking to. The Crotone one, sure, but here's the thing. If it's not working or it doesn't work, make the adjustments. This is the one thing that I said would probably hurt Pirlo when it came to the experience side of things. Because they said, who cares about coaching experience? The guy knows the game. But the thing is, it's different. It's different when you're managing. And you got to know when to pull that trigger on a change you need to make or you have to make. And, he got bit. He should have been holding that. You could see the reckless challenges. He got lucky on one. He should have got carded sooner and got sent off. He didn't. The second that happens, you got to make that decision and you got to take him out. You can't let your team fall to 10 men, especially when they're struggling in that match, right? And then against Crotone, my God, Portanova completely fucking invisible. You've got to make that change. You can't allow him to go back in there at the start of the second half, in my opinion, for that long. Like, and you got to see that gap from the mids to the forwards and realize that you need to put a player in the hole there. And maybe Kulishevsky should have been that. And that's another thing too. Kulishevsky, again, like we were talking about, I don't see him fitting in right now. He's got to figure him out, but I don't think he could be one of those top two. And do you agree, Graeme?
I mean, like, I like Kulusevski. He was impressing me in the first game, but then, like, he's kind of, I don't know, he's not looked as great in the recent games. Like, he's not a guaranteed first-team regular for me. Like, you know, it's very easy to put him on the bench, in my opinion. I mean, if you have, like, say, like if you have Chiesa, or God forbid, Bernardeschi comes into form amazingly, then, you know, you're not going to have any issues with putting Kulusevski on the bench. So, like, you know, just because he's had a good start and just because, like, he costs something like 30 plus million, doesn't mean he's going to be a first-team regular.
Yeah. Here's one coming in. Against Barcelona, who would you prefer to play alongside Morata? Dybala or Kula? I'm hoping Ronaldo's back. He needs to be clear 7 days prior. But let's be serious. I hope Ronaldo's back. But if it were between the two, for me, the only reason this is tougher, okay? The only reason this is tougher is because Dybala seemed rusty and slightly off today. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't question it that much, but I still think I'm leaning towards Dybala. Graeme, if it were up to you next to Morata against Barca, do you go Dybala or Kulishevsky?
Dybala. You know, Dybala's just more proven, I would say. I mean, as long as he's fit, I don't want to risk like a 70% Dybala and then suddenly like he's got the shits in the middle of the pitch or something. You know, I don't want to see that. So, like, ability-wise, I would say Dybala and Morata. I mean, you need to remember as well, these two have played together. You know, they played together for like the 15-16 season. So they are somewhat familiar with each other and they are proven to play together. So I would definitely start with those two.
Yeah,
They're basically
sequences. Actually, immediately once Dybala came on the pitch, there was a couple sequences where him and Morata actually worked a couple of plays quite nicely. It just didn't work out, and Dybala was again noticeably off. But yeah, I think it's got to be Dybala over Kulishevsky, in my opinion. We've got another question coming in. Do you think Bonucci has been scapegoated? Graeme, I'm going to let you tackle that one to start.
Right. To a degree, yes. But also, like, at the same time, no. Right? And I'll explain myself, right? Because of what happened with him leaving for Milan a couple of years ago, he's always going to have that hovering over him. So if Bonucci makes a mistake on the pitch, he's going to get it 10 times worse than any other player on the pitch, just because of what happened with Milan. But at the same time, you know, since he's came back, I don't think he's been the same player that left. I mean, he had a horrendous time at Milan, and at the time you could put that down to, well, it's Milan he's playing for, they're a shit team. But then he came back to us and it was like he was making some mistakes, not regularly, okay? It wasn't like every game was happening and he was costing us goals or whatever. But anytime he made a mistake, he would get heavily criticised for it just because he hadn't leaving from Milan. But particularly last season, I thought he stepped up a hell of an amount. He took on the captaincy. I thought he put in some good performances. And at the end of the day, Bonucci is a good player for us. He's not a world-class defender, not anymore. But he's a good player for us as long as he's not sticking his arse out. That's the main thing. Because he seems to do that, and then it bounces off him or it hits his hand or something. It's just like, you know, your technique's not working with whatever the hell that stance is. Just pack it in.
Yeah. And that's just it. So, like Bonucci, I was at that match in Turin when he had come out. He walked out to the pitch. He was still in his suit, and he walked right out almost to center. And he took a look, and he was doing his round at the crowd. And no, they gave it to him, man. They gave it to him before that game started. And I'm not faulting the fans. And he made that call, okay? He made that call when he scored the goal to run to the corner. I watched that asshole run to the corner, do his goddamn celly in front of the Milan fans. And, man, you make your bed, you lie in it, man. So scapegoat, I don't know. But this is what it's come down to with Bonucci, though, because he has been on a hell of a downward spiral as of late. I don't care about this ball playing ability anymore because your first job is defending. And when your first job is starting to shit the bed, and literally because he's bending over like he's going to take a shit, it's time to maybe look elsewhere. However, we don't have elsewhere to look currently because of De Ligt and now Chiellini. Let's wait to see what happens with Chiellini there. But yeah, Bonucci's kind of getting what.
I mean, what it comes down to, but like what it comes down to is people. Just that one last thing on the Bonucci thing. In case anyone's forgotten, go back and see what he said when he left about being hungry and wanting to be the main man at Milan and bring them back. And you don't forget that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to go there. It's one thing to do things, but when you're literally saying, you know, that essentially you're trying to build them up to come back at us, dethrone us or whatnot. I mean, yeah. RB Comp saying he was solid tonight, though, to be fair. Yeah. I mean, let's not forget, I mean, Kiev, again, this is one of the things I talked about earlier in the podcast. I'm not sure why a lot of Juventini were really upset with this performance, whatnot, because Kiev did nothing. Like, we literally held them to very little. They maybe had 2 decent flashes of goal, if that. Michael writes in, when De Ligt comes back and with Demiral performing well, how would you set up the defense? This comes down to, are we going into a back four? How long's Chiellini done for? What's our coverage look like? Do we stick with the back three? Does Alexandro end up being that left center? But there's a lot of questions to this. But for me, De Ligt is automatically in the lineup. 120%. De Ligt's a lock. Demiral, as we mentioned earlier on the pod, to me struggles with the ball at his feet, which is of a higher demand, either at left center back or right center back in a 3-man defense. Not so much when you're playing 2 center backs. That's going to be a big thing for Demiral as well as our depth and our coverage. I honestly cannot see Bonucci being pulled from this lineup. He racked up the most minutes on the club last year. I don't see it going away this year. I'm sorry if that pisses Juventini off. And it's not my call. Okay, don't shoot the messenger, but I don't see Bonucci getting pulled from this lineup. Graham, your response to this question from Michael?
Well, if we're going in the current setup, back three would be immediately, with everyone fit, De Ligt is the best defender we have, the best centre back. Bonucci, because you know it's Bonucci, like he's going to start. He's got experience. He's basically the captain now, and his ball playing abilities are good. You know, you can't fault him for that. Defensively, he's not the best, but you know, De Ligt's there to cover and help him out. And that would sound crazy to say, but Danilo's impressed me so far. I think he's had a good season so far. Demiral, I like him. I'm not criticising him, but the only thing that worries about me is he's overly aggressive. Now, that can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing at the same time, because I remember when I first watched his debut against Sassuolo, and he gave away a penalty, and he was sliding in and sticking the boot in all over the place, and I was just watching that, and like people were praising him, saying this is brilliant. It's like the second coming of Paulo Montero, and I'm thinking this guy's going to give away a penalty and get sent off or something. So he needs to calm that down slightly. He's a good player, but like when it comes to a back three, that's my original ones there: De Ligt, Bonucci, and Danilo.
Where do you see Juve ending the season realistically? Okay, I was asked this question the other day, and it's a tough one to answer. Name your top 4 finishers in Serie A.
Damn, that's a tough one. The joys of doing something live.
Hey, I did it live too, so I got put on the spot as well.
I would say, right, I'm biased, so Juventus are going to be top. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty at times, but I think we make the 10. Second, and this is going to be a shout out to Juventissimo 90s, Milan. I think AC Milan are going to be second because they're looking in very good form. I don't think they're going to win it, like certain people do, but I think they'll be second. And this is where it gets tough. I think Merderford. I think just because, like, you know, they're supposed to be the anti-Juve and they've got all these season pros and everything. I think they'll be third. And fourth spot is so tough. You know, you could make a case for any of Napoli, Lazio, Atalanta. You know, there's probably another team that I'm missing out right now. But I would say, off the top of my head right now, I would say Napoli, because they don't have Champions League football, I think. I'm not even sure if they have Europa League football. So, you know, Atalanta's going to be in the Champions League again, second season running. You know, we might have fixture congestion at some point. Who knows with the way the world events are going. So I would say my top 4 will be Juventus, retaining the title for 10 in a row, AC Milan second, Merda third, and Napoli fourth.
All right. I got to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most confident, how confident are you Juve bags that 10th?
8 out of 10.
Wow. That's pretty damn confident.
Well, I mean, usually it's 10 out of 10. It's been 10 out of 10 for the past, 5 years or something.
Yeah.
I just think, I don't know, it's because I'm so used to it. You know, I've been spoiled, so you just expect it. And I know for a fact that the first season where we don't win it is going to be an absolute shock to the system. But, you know, possibly like a 7 or an 8, you know, I think we definitely retain the Champions League. And when it comes to Champions League, completely different story. Completely different story.
So realistically, where do you think Juve ends in Champions League? How far do you think we make it?
Sorry to be a downer, no further than the quarterfinals. But hey, that's progress because we got eliminated in the round of 16 under Sarri.
Yeah, so no further than quarterfinals. Hey, yeah, it's really interesting, man. I mean, I think the time will come that Pirlo will stop the tinkering. It's just, will he have it a well-oiled machine by that time? RB Comps thinks we can possibly make the semis too in Champions League. It's tough. The one thing that he has, which is huge in management, is he has the players on his side. He's got, he's got the players on his side. That's the biggest thing you can have as a manager. If we can figure out a way to get this thing rolling, the other thing he has, which we haven't had for a while, is a decent degree of depth and options, especially attacking. For a couple seasons, it's been pretty toothless outside of our starting 11. Would you agree, Graeme?
Yeah, I mean, I think the past couple of seasons where people's been speaking about our depth, I just think that's a misconception, massive misconception. When you look at the personnel that we had, I mean, people were talking about the depth that we had last season. It's like, I mean, you're talking about guys like Matuidi, Sami Khedira still at the team, and like, you know, Higuain, was past his best, evidently so, because I mean, he's left the club and as far as I'm aware, he's missing penalties in America. So I think the team that we have right now, the squad overall, is more complete than last season, I feel, personally. Obviously, we still have glaring holes in the team, like the full-back position, or the wing-back position, whatever the hell people want to call it now. But it's still a weak area.
Yeah. that's the thing. I mean, this is what's frustrated me about Juve's business for quite some time. And you and I are no strangers to this discussion, Graeme. It's just, it always feels like we leave gaps in the rosters or holes here and there. We can never completely solidify it. However, I think Pirlo's 3-4-1-2, 3-5-2, whatever the hell you want to call it, I think it does a good job of covering those gaps, to be honest. The 3 center back system allows you to use a guy like Quadrado and not rely on him so much defensively like you would in a back four, being that right back. It's one of the reasons I am kind of behind this formation he's going with. I don't have a problem with it. I think he just needs to figure out where some of that personnel is best suited. But RB Comps writes and he has a bad feeling about this year and he doesn't know. Serie A concerns me. I don't like the start we've gotten off to. I don't think anybody does. We're, 4 points off the mark. Here's a true story as well for our viewers and you, Graeme. I'm at my soccer match 2 nights ago. And it's halftime. I'm walking off the pitch. And I see somebody running towards me from the other field. And I'm thinking, who the hell is this guy? He runs, and as he gets closer, I notice who it is. And it's probably one of the only other 5 people in this town that watch Serie A. He's a Milan fan. And he came over, and he goes, hey, did you see these patting me on the back? Do you see the standings? Do you see what? And I go, is this what it's come down to? Milan fans celebrating first of the table 4 matches into the goddamn season? And he's like, well, come on, you guys just lost to Crotone. And I'm like, buddy, we drew. And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it is kind of the same. It is kind of the same. I'll give you that. I said, but listen, is this what it's come to? I go, this is exactly what I talked about in that little video I did a little while ago where you got these little chihuahuas coming at yipping at the big Rottweilers sitting there, 9 times big champions. But I hate that Juve's put me in that position where I had to listen to a fucking Milan fan celebrating so hard.
I mean, to be fair to them all, it's been a very long time since Milan fans have had anything to celebrate. I mean, you're talking about almost 10 years without winning a league title, a whole decade without winning a league title. So it's been a while since I've had anything to shout about. So give them this slightly.
And I told him, I said, look, I go, here's the thing. I go, you're celebrating 4 straight wins. We just celebrated 9 straight titles. Levels, buddy. Levels.
Small club mentality.
Yeah, get the hell out of here. But no, it's just, I just hated that Juve put me in the God's. But no, this season, it's going to be a wild one. It's going to be up and down. There's going to be a lot of growing pains with Pirlo. Do you think the club's going to grant him enough patience to do his job? This is going to be the last question as we wrap this up. Do you think he's going to be granted enough patience? Last year, we had people calling for Sarri's head, like, immediately, whatever. He wasn't granted anything. Do you think Pirlo will get more patience?
A lot will depend on performances and progression, like with team ability and team play, how we play on the pitch. A lot will depend on that, and also depend on who's available. Because make no mistake about it, okay? I love Pirlo, one of my all-time favourite players. I love seeing him play for Juventus particularly. But he's like a short-term solution, okay? I read that the club spent close to 20 million getting rid of Sarri and his staff. That's a lot of money. And then we bring in Pirlo just to replace him because he's a cheap option. Let's be realistic. If it works out for Pirlo, fantastic, superb. But if it doesn't, and someone more credible is available next summer, then it's not going to cost a lot to get rid of Pirlo. So a lot will depend on those 2 factors, performance-wise for the team and who's available next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of the same with Sarri. I said, I could probably deal with us not winning titles, giving up some trophies. if the progression was there on the pitch or not. But if you're seeing nothing change and it's struggling, like, yeah, it's time to go. And I know that there was quite a few Juventini that were saying, keep Sarri, bring in the players he wants, but I could not get behind that. Pirlo, I give him the same leeway. If we don't win the titles, but we are growing and now he's injecting the team with youth, if we can do that, and we should all be thanking him because he's actually followed through and got rid of the disease that is Sami Khedira. Sure, he's not completely gone, but he had an opportunity to get back in the team list, and we went with Portanova. So we got to thank Pirlo for that, for God's sakes. I like that he's sticking to his guns. He's got this idea of what he wants to accomplish, and he's going with it. So I'm behind him 150% the whole way. Like I said, as long as there's progression, there's growth, I'm for it. But yeah, on that note, we're going to wrap up. Thank everybody who's joined. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the live. We might end up making this more regular, maybe do all the pods this way. We'll see what ends up happening. But thank you for everyone that was tuning in. Graeme, thanks again for joining me. We got the Champions League group stage kicked off with a nice victory, and we're going to be facing Verona in our next match where we can start to get back to winning ways in Serie A. So we will, of course, be back after that match with another post-match podcast, and I will have another guest with me. Thanks again. As always, until next time, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.